Hello, welcome to Quick Grade Educational Hub, your number one channel if you want to pass your IGCSE exams with ease. Now, today our focus will be on research method, and we are going to look at how to interpret qualitative data source. And if you are a sociology student, you will know that in IGCSE sociology exams, paper 1, research method is compulsory for all students, and then you choose between social stratification and identity. And so today our focus will be on interpreting qualitative data sources. One thing that you should know is that in research method, the students will always be given a source for them to work with. And so the source could be either qualitative or quantitative. But for the purpose of our lesson today, our focus will be on qualitative data source. Part 2 of this lesson will focus on interpreting quantitative data sources. Now, if you look at the questions under this source, they use the phrase from source A, identify two conclusions from an Oakley study, the sociology of housework. Now, the phrase here from source A, identify, tells you that the answers are in the source. So you just have to read the source to identify the answers and write it for the examiner. There is no need for you to explain your answers because when they ask you to identify something, they expect you to what? To state briefly. And so if you have not watched our video on command words in sociology, I will urge you to go and watch the video to understand the various command words that we use in sociology so that you'll be able to answer questions very well. Now, the first question says, from source A, identify two conclusions from an Oakley study, the sociology of housework. Now, when you look at the third paragraph, which I have highlighted here, it gives us a clear idea of what the examiner wants from you. And so what are the conclusions here? From the third paragraph, Oakley concluded that many housewives in her sample did most or all the housework, and they experienced housework as boring, repetitive, and with little or no rewards. So this is where we can get our answers from. If you compare it with my indicative content here, you realize that the first answer here says many housewives in her sample did most or all the housework, which is the same as what we see in the third paragraph. The second answer says they experienced housework as boring, repetitive, and with little or no rewards. So you see that there is no explanation attached to the answers given here because the command word says identify. If you compare the answers to what we have here in paragraph 3, clearly it's the same thing. So please, when they ask you to identify something from a source, just look at the answer and write it down without any explanation. Now we come to question number 2. From source A, identify two reasons why recording the interviews was useful. If you come to the second paragraph, I think the third line, this is where we can actually get our answers from the source. She recorded the conversation so that she could have an accurate account of each interview. Using a tape recorder to record the women's words also allow her to keep eye contact and therefore keep the conversations as natural as possible. Now let's compare it with the answers that we have here. So clearly, we could see that the first answer says conversations. Oakley recorded the conversation so that she could have an accurate record. It allowed her to keep an eye contact. It allowed her to keep the conversations as natural as possible. Once again, no explanation for these answers here. You just have to identify the answers and write your answers down. That is very simple. And so please stick to this guideline so that you not waste time when you are writing your IGCSE sociology exams. Remember that you have limited time and there are a lot of questions for you to answer. Now we have two more questions to look at. I'll look at the third one and then I'll end the lesson here. Now let's focus on the third questions. The third question. From source A, identify two characteristics of the sample in an Oakley study, the sociology of housework. Once again, when you come to if you look at the characteristics, the same paragraph 2, if you look at the first and the second line, we can get our answers from there. And so Oakley conducted 40 semi-structured interviews with London housewives. The housewives were aged between 20 and 30. They were all mothers with at least one child under 5. Now, when you compare it to the answers that we have here, clearly we could see that they were housewives, they were from London, they were aged between 20 to 30, they were all mothers with at least one child under 5. So that is how we approach the first question when it comes to research method in relation to the source. Question A, 1AI. Pay attention to the command word, identify the answer from the source, you write it down without any explanation. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel, you share the video for other students to benefit. Part 2 of the video will look at how we can interpret quantitative data sources. Thank you.